Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we are joined by Sacha Brant, the entrepreneurial powerhouse behind Brand Scrubbers. With over 15 years in leadership, Sacha has revolutionized online presence for businesses in more than 5 countries worldwide, earning respect for her pay-as-you-grow offer. An active member of Startup Columbia Valley, she's also a UN panelist and a champion for nonprofits. Under her guidance, Brand Scrubbers boosted donations for the Veterans Food Bank of Calgary by 150%. From SEO to graphic design, sales, and marketing, Sacha's experience is vast. I've asked her to join us here today to share her story and insights on how we can all improve our online presence to increase profitability. So welcome, Sacha. Thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing great. I can't complain. Sun is shining. Everybody's happy.
Right?
It's a good day.
Yeah, it is a good day. Eh? We're all going to die sometime. So every day above ground is a good one.
That's the one.
Now, before we get into what you're doing with Brand Scrubbers and your methodology and some of the lessons you've learned, how did you even get involved? Like, your entrepreneurship is not a path for everyone. So do you come from a family of entrepreneurs? Is this kind of a family trade of sorts?
Nope. I'm actually a bit of a black sheep in my family. Honestly, I've just always been a go-getter, so to speak, and especially as a female in a lot of the industries that I've been, it's a little harder to advance sometimes. And I was working with a great company, but there was really no advancement options. And they worked with a lot of big companies, but the little guys weren't getting any attention. And I'm like, I have these skills and I could help some people. And so I literally started my business so that I could help these small business owners achieve what they wanted to with their budgets, with my skills.
I love that. Helping people, that's really the foundation of business in general. Now,
Yeah,
so what you just jumped out, did you know what you were doing? Did you know what you were getting into? What were some of the bigger challenges that you faced when you were getting going?
Does anybody really know what they're getting into right away? Not necessarily. And I started out a little different. So I had a different brand when I first started, a little bit of a different direction. But like most business owners, once you figure out where you need to be and what you need to do, I settled in there and I haven't changed.
Got it. Okay. So what were some of the skills that you felt you had to develop as time went on? Like you said, there's been an evolution to it. So in the beginning, was there one skill set that you felt you needed? And then in hindsight's 2020, but I'm just curious about your journey.
I really thought when I started my business that it would need more in-person things, events, programs. I really thought in-person was going to be a bigger part of the pie. But as it turns out, and especially as things have developed, we've gone more and more online, not less. And I mean, with COVID and other things have happened, events aren't quite the same things that they used to be. And I just migrated in the direction that I needed to go. I went where the people needed me to be, and I brought the services that they needed in that moment.
Got it. Okay. So what would you recommend to someone who might be starting out or struggling online right now? They've just got something going. They may be online or offline as a business, brick and mortar, but they know that they need an online presence. What do you recommend?
The biggest thing is to figure out who you actually want to market to and try to tune as much of your business to that as possible, especially in the outset, because you really do want to create a nice, loyal group of people that love what you do, are willing to cheer about what you do, and are willing to help you put yourself out there. One of my favorite clients and my favorite people, her name is Laura Allen. She's the pitch girl. And she talks a lot about this concept of the third party pitch, which is where a lot of businesses start. You don't start out with a lot of proof of concept. You don't start out with a lot of clientele. You don't start out with, well, much of anything when you get going. So having some of those people that know who you are, like who you are, and are willing to tell other people about that, I mean, it's going to help you move forward faster than any other maneuver I've ever seen. So I honestly believe that if you feel really confident in what you're doing, if your marketing has been designed for the people that you want to reach, then you build a following that actually want what you offer, and they're actually going to help you achieve.
I love that. Let's break that down. So one thing you really mentioned is focusing on your target market, which I think is incredibly powerful. As I think I maybe mentioned in our early meet and greet that I spent a significant sum of money having a research team help me go through all the academic literature to try to figure out what really moves the needle for small and medium-sized businesses. And we found 8 critical success factors. One of them is market intelligence. There's so many examples of companies that took their eye off the ball. Blockbuster is the one I really like a lot because they were a $6 billion company. That's a B. $6 billion company. They could have hired any talent. They could have developed any tech, and they got taken out by a startup called Netflix because they were so comfortable in their model, they lost touch with their customers. They thought people wanted, after a long day of cutting hair or a long day standing serving tables or a long day of whatever, that you wanted to go drive somewhere and stand in front of a wall, have paralysis by analysis to choose one of 700 options, to then rent it, take it home, and then be billed late fees if you didn't bring it back on time. Whereas Netflix was more like pizza in the beginning. They give you a catalog, you would order a movie, they would deliver it, and then they would come and pick it up. And there was none of the late fees, none of that stuff. And so you're talking about focus on your target market. That's what I wrote down here. Focus on your target market.
Absolutely.
And the other key part, it was love what you do. And you said something before we got started, which I think is really helpful for people too. You mentioned you do a lot of pro bono work. And I think that probably feeds into some of what you just mentioned now, where the third party pitch, how case studies and testimonials and what other people say about you being way more important than what you say about yourself. And so I think that already this has got, like, for people listening, unpacking what you just said, already it just sounds so well set up for success. You focus on a specific group you can help.
Yep. You
help them, and you get permission to share their stories about how you help them. This seems like rocket science. I don't know. We might need to get a room of mathematicians in here. Why don't you think more people do this?
There's a lot of noise out there, and that's a big part of it. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of people who are standing on their desk saying, I will teach you how to five-figure this, and I will teach you, and a lot of noise. And it's really hard for individuals who are just starting out to find the right messages and to follow the right advice. And it can be really hard to know which things are going to, like you said, move the needle. But proof of concept always moves the needle. Third party pitching always moves the needle, and having passion in what you do always moves the needle, because these are the things that people will buy into first and foremost.
I love that. Yeah, no, was it? I heard this just recently when I took my family for 2 weeks in Japan this year. And I mean, I lived there for 3 years, but there was something, they said Japan's a very conformist culture, and they were saying no one wants to be the first penguin. And so that idea is that in the Arctic, the first penguin to jump into the water is the one that gets eaten. Right. So nobody wants to be the first penguin to jump in the water and see if it's safe. And so that's where this stuff is really hard. And we're doing something pro bono it can really help you build that track record of history. And you might think you're great, but a lot of people, they may not understand what they're up against. They might not even understand the full scope of their market. So is it okay if I quickly break down some of the key? Maybe I can ask you and then we'll do it together. Together, can we make a list of how do you define a target market? Is it just like soccer moms? Is that what you say, I'm going to sell to soccer moms? Or how would you go about trying to figure out who your target market is?
It's a balance thing, right? So it's who's going to want the thing that you're offering, and then how much information do you know about those people? How small a vertical can you create? Because the thing about marketing is that different things that you do will appeal to different people in different ways. The bigger your vertical is, the more people you have in your vertical, the harder it is to market to them, because different people will like different things. So the more you can niche down, make your own little vertical of people who are most likely to think the same and respond the same, the more likely you are to have them think and respond the same to whatever you're putting in front of them. So it's breaking down who they are, what they want, how they want to get it, and trying to make it into a nice, compact, little marketable, bite-sized food.
Yeah, no, I think that's so who they are, what they want, and how they want to get it. And you said something, how small of a vertical can you make? I love that. We used to say inch wide, mile deep. I think that is just a really powerful. And another way for people to think about it is if you've got a sports event, could be anything, could be basketball, football, it doesn't really matter. Hockey, go Canada, could be anything, right? But that you've got people that want to stream it for free online from home, people that want to pay for the experience, people that want to go to the pub with a few friends and share the cost of it and have a couple of beers, people that want to go to the actual sporting event, but they don't want to spend a lot, so they're willing to sit up in the nosebleeds, people that want to have their feet on the ice or on the grass right on the front row. Then you have people that want to be able to go behind the scenes and talk to the players after the game or before the game. You got people that want to sit in the big box things, be comfortable and watch it on TV in the stadium, which I don't quite get, but there's people that want that. And so that's a way to think of it is like if there was a lake, that lake will support a bunch of life, and the lake might be a problem. And around that lake, you'll have birds, and some birds will eat insects, some birds will eat fruits and berries, some birds will eat other birds, some birds will eat fish, And that's almost like you have a problem, like saying, I like to use the example of job hunting. People need to find jobs, and you do CVs and help people find work. While there's high-powered CEOs looking for high-powered CEO positions, and there's homeless people that are looking to get trained up for new skills and find a job. It's the same problem, but two different stereotypes. So we're talking about creating a stereotype. As much as we live in an era of non-labels and this need to create a stereotype that you can serve. I love that. I love that so much. Now, do you have to stick with one stereotype, one target market? What do you recommend?
Gosh, no. I mean, it's where you start, right? The thing is that once you build that loyal base of people, once you have people who are like, "Ooh, I love you," then you can start expanding into other verticals, adding additional people. We were talking about Netflix. They didn't start out wanting to appeal to everybody and their dog. They started out wanting to appeal to those people who just want to watch something at home with the least amount of hassle possible. And then they grew from there. Then they started attracting people who only want to see stuff from home. And they built their business around a lot of these concepts. They found people who really wanted to see brand new content. So now they're developing content. But all of these are different verticals that they added on after the fact. They started small, they built their people, and then they went from there. Of course, you're not going to stay in a teeny weeny vertical. A business can't survive on a teeny weeny vertical forever. Eventually, you're going to have to expand. But having that really solid base of people who love you, who are willing to shout your names from the rooftops, helps you expand into those other verticals with a little bit more ease and a little bit more control.
I love that. Yeah. We had a past guest. He was a big fan, Justin Brooks. He's been here a couple of times. He's a paid ads guy. And he recommends that if you're starting out or if you're not sure who you're for, to try off just as a starting point. He calls it the 5x3x2, which is 5 stereotypes targeting 3 reasons why with 2 different offers. And so through that testing, the 5x3x2, you hopefully will find one person, one reason, and one reason, and one offer that gets you your buyers. And that you need to stick to that until you're hopefully hitting 1 million. You can expand before then if you need to, but you really need to make sure that you've vetted and proven something. And I think that's really powerful. So people that aren't sure, some of the research first, again, we talked about, you have to know what the problem is that you're trying to solve. You need to know why it's a problem. And then you need to know who are the affected people in terms of stereotypes, population size estimates. You can look at things like paid ad platforms if they give you an audience estimate. You can also use things like Google Trends. And then you want to know and describe them by both demographics and psychographics. So demographics are like age, location, married, kids, no kids. Psychographics are kind of like your disc and your personality types and are they a value shopper? Are they an early adopter? Those are the psychographics. And then you need to figure out the cost of not fixing this problem for those people, short-term, long-term, things that they realize, don't realize. And then you want to look at least 10 competitors. And as best you can, you want to try and estimate their sales data, their locations, who they're targeting, their offers and price points. And then you can actually look up things like industry benchmarks. On average, how much a cost per click is. On average, right? What size are some of these businesses? On average, all that stuff. And then from that, take a look at what is emerging trends as best you can. Who are the thought leaders? And from that, start formulating your strategic plan. Would you agree with that? Is there anything that I missed that you would add?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's all trial and error at first, but what you're saying is exactly what you need to do, right? Figure it out, do your research, then attempt implementation, and just be ready to test, adjust, rinse, repeat, because you may not get it 100% right out the gates, but you'll have new data and new information, which will help you make better choices the next time.
Yeah, 100%. And so with brand scrubbers, what I love about this is you help them manage their online presence. What do you feel are some of the greatest mistakes that clients and people tend to make?
I think the biggest one is thinking that they can appeal to everyone. That's something I hear a lot is, oh, I can market to everyone. Everybody needs what I have. Yes, but no, you can't. You're not McDonald's, you're not Walmart. You don't have the kind of budget that you need to be able to market to everybody. So saying that, oh, I'm for everybody right out the gates is probably one of the biggest mistakes I see. And it's usually the reason that a lot of established businesses come to me later, because they've been trying, they're not getting very much traction. But in most cases, it's because they've got a very wide net and a very small marketing presence.
I love that.
That's the biggest thing that I usually see, that and not actually giving appropriate forethought to your branding in the beginning.
What do you mean by appropriate forethought to your branding? Can you talk about that for a second? What does that mean?
A lot of people just jump in. They're like, I have this business idea and I thought of this name and I like these colors, and it's okay. But did you think about how your audience is going to respond to the name? Did you think about what they're going to think about your colors? Have you given any thought to anything outside of yourself and what you enjoy? And a lot of people really have problems doing that. And they have problems stepping out and saying, it's not about me, it's about my customers. But that's the secret sauce there. And if you can take yourself out of your own point of view and into someone else's, you're gonna find a lot more success.
I love that. I love that. I love that. If you're not for a specific someone, then you're for no one. Now here's a little tip for some people that may not know domain names. Depending on what you want, of course, you can spend $100,000 or even $1 million on a domain name, but there's also plenty available that are only $10 a year. And I want to share a story of a client that I had in my hometown in Ontario. I'm not sure. Maybe I'll mention the names. I don't think he'll mind. I don't know. We'll see what happens as I keep talking. But this gentleman, I was so surprised he owned a moving company. And I was so surprised when we started working together that he actually owned 2 moving companies. He owned the premium brand, the most expensive one in the town. He also owned one that was like, I'm going to make up a new name, but it was like Move for Cheap. Okay. And I'm just making that name up, but it was the same office, the same secretaries, the same staff, the whole way. But when someone paid for the premium company, it's different phone numbers. You call one phone number, you get one company. You call the other phone number, you get another company. But he was doing the same fulfillment. He had 2 websites, 2 phone numbers. He had 2 sets of vehicles. One set of vehicle had all the company branding on it. And when you hired the premium, you got a premium service. They would move your stuff and you would get extra packaging and handling care. If you went with a cheap brand, they just had white shirts, white trucks, no logos on the forms, like no stationery, like no letterheads, nothing like that. It was just the bare basics, get your stuff in a vehicle, move there. So this was a way he was able to target both the top and the bottom of the same market. But first, he built $1 million business focusing on one first. And I think that's a good little lesson there for that. Those things were great. Any suggestions for how people can get out of their own heads and put their customers first?
Out of your own head part is always
You said so much in that half second.
It's hard to get out of your own head. The best thing you can do is try to find some of these people that you would consider part of your market and talk to them. So, I mean, remove yourself from the equation completely. Go find some of these people that you think you would want to market to and actually talk to them. And market research is huge, and conversations go a long way, as much as we all try to avoid them these days. And if you actually get into it with somebody, they're going to give you perspectives that you couldn't have possibly even thought of.
I love that. Yes, 100%. 100%. So someone feels that they have a target market. They feel that they have thought about the client's considerations and that. What do they need to do now?
A lot of it comes down to what they are putting out there. Different products or services do, to some degree, have very different approaches, and especially when it comes to who you're going to approach. But today, generally, you're going to need a website because people expect you to have a home online, right? They expect to be able to find you online. People expect you to have some sort of social media presence. You don't have to be on all the platforms. Find the one that works for your clientele, but they expect you to have something. And outside of that, they expect you to have your ducks in a row, to know what you're offering, how to offer it, and to then provide what is being asked for. That's really the success sauce right there.
I love that. All right. And we already talked before that case studies and just talking about what you're doing for people is one of the most powerful marketing strategies. Now, what would
absolutely.
you
and having other people talk about what you're good at. I could talk until I'm blue in the face about how amazing my company is. It will have one impact. If I have 5 other people telling you how amazing my company is, totally different impact.
Right. Yeah. What other people say about you is more important than what you say about yourself, because people are going to assume you're inherently biased, and people have been betrayed before, they've been misled, they've been told promises, so they're shy. And again, nobody wants to be the first penguin. So now, what are your thoughts on work-life balance?
Okay, in all fairness, we all need it. Everybody knows this. It's not like it's a new thing. It's something that when you're first starting out business, no matter how amazing, you will struggle with to some degree. Everybody struggles with work-life balance at the beginning, but you want to be constantly trying to get yourself to that point, right? Even from the beginning, what do I need to do to achieve that balance and how quickly can I get there? But realizing that it may not necessarily be possible when you first start out, right? There's limitations, and sometimes we have to put in a lot more at the beginning. That's why entrepreneurship may not be for everybody. But if you are always keeping that in mind, I eventually want to have work-life balance, I eventually want to accomplish these things, you will get there. You just have to kind of keep that in mind.
You speak to running a business as a mom as well. That's despite the support that us fathers want to give, there's just some things that we can't replace and just some things that biologically we don't worry about as much. I don't know how to phrase that properly, but I remember I was when I had my daughter, I was all like, I'm gonna do my 50%. I'm so gung ho. I'm gonna be a good dad. And my biggest shock was how useless I was for like the first year. Like I always attribute it to like Rocky and Adrian, where her mom was Rocky in the ring and the bell would ding, and I just have to like massage her boobs and make sure she's hydrated and fed and send her back in for the next round. It was just a real, yeah, I'm gonna shut up now. Can you speak to that at all?
I mean, look, being a mom is a whole nother ball game, and it's whether no matter how prepared you are, it's got its own challenges. It's going to need its own time. The biggest things I find is you have to be really patient with yourself, because when you're running a business and trying to deal with a kid, it's really easy to get impatient with yourself, which does not help anything ever. Being really crystal clear with your clients as to what to expect and being honest with yourself at the same time, right? I wouldn't say to somebody, I'll have your logos for you tomorrow. I wouldn't be able to do that. That's ridiculous. Come on. I have to chase a 2-year-old for at least 6 hours of those that day. So you have to be able to be realistic with your timelines, be honest with your clientele. And in most cases, they're going to be accepting, they're going to be understanding. Otherwise, they're really not your best fit client anyway.
Yeah.
As long as you can do that, everything else you fly by the seat of your pants. Do the best that you can, but don't overpressure yourself and don't overpromise, underdeliver. There's no fun to that.
Yeah, I think there's some also, and I not necessarily as a mom, I can't speak to that, but I just know like when you have kids, time management takes on a whole new meaning. And it really shows the importance of planning and thought, I guess, in running a business. And some tricks that I think are been very helpful for me are just a couple of things to consider. One is to be open to having a team and building a team, but then just throwing a bunch of people together can be, when you add more people to a project, it doesn't necessarily make it easier. It can actually make it more complicated. So a really important tool, I think, is creating an accountability chart. And so this is where instead of an org chart where people are like, oh, there's me and then my assistant and that, you actually map out your customer journey, and then you try to itemize below it all the individual tasks and things that need to be done in order to fulfill that journey and give it a world-class experience. And as much OCD detail as you can, to be real. And then once you have all those to-do items mapped out, you can group them into ones that make sense. And that's how you create the positions in your company. And what this also does is it really gives you a clear crystal plan on how to create SOPs. You can also do the task yourself and time how long it needs. And this is where a lot of people find that they actually don't necessarily need full-time staff. They need fractional staff. So accountability chart, I find to be a really important tool, especially for helping people work. I know it's a cliche term, but it's real, work on their business versus in their business. And then to think about 10,000 hours and 10,000, not 10,000 hours, 10,000, the rule of 10,000, which is if you're going to bake 5 blueberry pies, it's different than if you're going to bake 10,000 blueberry pies. So then to look and go, if I were to operate this business, what structure? Because when we talk about a big brand like McDonald's, they're not like, hey, Sally's tired today, so the drive-through is closed. They've built the system. They know all the to-do items. They have lots of part-time staff on schedule that they're, like you mentioned before, it's not about them as much as it is about serving the community. And I think that those are some really powerful tips as well. I wanted to ask, where do you think things are going? We have AI. Because of the pandemic, everyone's been pushed online. There's social media going on. There's censorship, information wars happening in a lot of ways. Like the world has changed drastically in just 3 years. Where do you think things are going to be in 10 years?
We're in a period of extreme flux. Induction of AI alone has caused a massive shift in things and will continue to do so as people learn all the many different ways that AI can be utilized, where we've barely scratched the surface. It's going to be no different than when internet first became a thing, right? It changed the landscape, and it did so drastically. And it maybe didn't happen overnight, but over 5 to 10 years, 5 years before the internet was a whole lot different than 5 years after the internet. And I
Right.
think that's what we're looking at with AI as well, is we're very much in the early adoption, and we're still trying to figure out where everything fits. But I think it's going to ultimately be integrated into almost everything that we do.
Right. Right. Is there anything that you're doing to try to prepare and be where things are going?
We already use AI in what we do, because there's a lot of the tasks that we do that we can facilitate faster, better with AI. There's nothing at the point where it can completely replace a person, especially in what we do, but it is a wonderful supplemental tool. It makes it easier for my contractors, my staff, to be able to sit down and do their jobs with more efficacy. That enables us to do more, make more money, help more people. So it's early adoption is absolutely key. I think everybody should be looking into it and how it can help your business. But I don't think it's something where it's like, here, let's replace an entire department of people with AI. It's just not there yet. So it's about growing with the AI as it grows, seeing where it's going, and just trying to stay with or ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I like how you mentioned that AI is like a tool. And that's the best way I consider it. Whenever anyone asks me, I say, I think it's like calculators in accounting. Like
Yep,
back in the day, bookkeepers and
exactly.
accountants, they had to do the math themselves. And then a calculator came out, and the productive ones became more productive, and the non-productive ones lost their excuse for why it took them 7 days to do 2 + 2 = 4. But at the end of the day, it was still
Yep.
a tool, and it didn't replace the need for accountants and bookkeepers. And I think, like you mentioned, that's what's happening now. Productive people are jumping on the bandwagon. They're figuring out these tools. How can I be more productive? And the people that aren't, and this almost is, in some ways, it's a blessing. It might be painful like a Band-Aid, but if you're not enjoying what you do, you need to go figure out your ikigai. And the ikigai is the intersection between, it's a Japanese term for like your reason to live. It's the intersection between what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and what people will pay for. And the intersection of those three
Exactly.
things is something that you would do, with, what is it they say? If you do what you love, you never up to work a day in your life. But you do need to get paid. So you got to figure out the intersection between what you're good at and what people will pay you for. And if you can figure that out, AI just becomes a tool. I talked to a guy, I'm trying to remember his name. It's Ori, O-R-I. He's done art every single day. He's done a piece of art every single day for something like 7 years. Never missed a day.
Yep.
And now he's been jumping in on all these AI tools and Stable Diffusion. And for him, he's just like a kid in a candy store where everything's become new again, unique, and he's learning new skill sets in that. And so I agree with you 100% on it being a tool.
You just can't avoid it. That's really what it comes down to. People are afraid of AI, and I understand where a lot of that fear comes from. But the sooner you can get in there, start to figure out how it'll work for you as opposed to against you, there's no point in pretending it won't continue. People thought that way about the internet, and look how that went. So it's going to be a thing. It's going to continue to be prevalent. It's going to become more and more prevalent. And the sooner you can start getting your feet wet, the better.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think some of it is about mindset, and not necessarily in the mindset of growth versus fixed, or I can do it versus I can't. But I just mean understanding that we are all people sharing one planet. I had a friend, I'll use this analogy because you're in Canada, we're both Canadians. I had a friend that lived in Alberta, and he was complaining about immigrants to Alberta. They're taking our job. This is a friend. I've known him since I was a kid in school. He's a well-intentioned guy, but sometimes, anyways, he was complaining. They live 8 people to an apartment. They'll work for half our wages, blah, blah, blah. And what I told him is, you need to look at this differently, because what you don't understand is that how bad must it be where they're coming from? That is the work ethic they bring here. It's we have so many false constructs around us. People don't realize. I'll give you a perfect example. Anybody here can look outside their window and see birds and ants and all that stuff. None of those creatures get holidays and weekends. There's no 2 weeks off for an ant. No bird is, hey, cat, can you come back on Monday? I need a mental health day. Like, that just is a pure social construct that we've created, whether they're a mom or not. That's every day, my favorite quote, every morning in Africa, when the sun comes up, a lion wakes up and it knows it must outrun the slowest gazelle or it will starve. Every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up and it knows it must outrun the fastest lion or it will be killed. So the moral of the story is, it doesn't matter if you are a lion or a gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. And so what you're talking about there, it's the same thing. My friend was complaining and I was like, bro, like, those are just the people that got through the border type thing. Like, what's on the other side of that wall? you need to understand that you have an obscene amount of luxury and you need to get hungry. You need to get hungry. Yep. You need to get passionate. You need to use this luxury you have to find something you're passionate about, your ikigai, so to speak, and a problem you can solve for people. Because, sweetheart, this sweetheart deal you got, it's not forever. Nothing is forever. And so just to speak to what you're saying, you got to lean in. You got to lean in, and things are going to be hard before they can be easy. And so you got to lean in on that and really help lead the charge, so to speak. Otherwise, you could end up like the dinosaur. It's evolution to a certain extent. So which side of that line do you want to be on?
True. Exactly.
What habits do you feel your most successful clients in that share in terms of things that they do regularly and consistently to show up at their best and to perform well and to stay ahead of the curve?
I think that one of the biggest things that I see now that is really making an impact is those who have customer service ability. It is something that people, I think, have been throwing to the wayside. We can automate this, we can automate that. But having the ability to really know, understand, and treat your customer with the care that they need, it's invaluable, especially as we continue to automate more and more. People still crave other people. They still want other people. And the more you can keep that in there, the more you can give what they need in an engagement, the more likely they are to come back, do it again, keep using it, whatever it may be. And I think that a lot of people don't necessarily count in those skills, and they don't take time to develop those skills. But I think that they make a big difference to the success of most of my clients.
I agree with that 1,000%. I think that is huge. I think you hit the nail on the head. Some people, they maybe don't want to deal with customers all day, every day, but whether you do it or somebody else does it, it needs to be done. And I think that's a fantastic point. Now, do you feel that there's any particular, I know some of my questions might be jumping around, but do you feel there's any particular activity that's best online to get traffic? Are you SEO or social or paid ads or live streaming versus the XYZ? What do you think is the biggest kind of bang for buck, so to speak, in terms of trying to build an online presence? How does someone do that?
This may be contrary to what a lot of people say. Any and all tactics can be effective if it is in line with what you like to do and how you like to operate. So if you're somebody who really likes to be on camera, really likes to be the center of attention, looking at things like TikTok, looking at video production on YouTube, like that is where you belong. But you may not necessarily belong on Twitter. That may not be your jam. So figuring out what your strengths are and then finding the platforms or the programs that are going to accentuate those characteristics within yourself, that's really where you're going to find the most success. So if you're a writer, you really love to write, learn to write for SEO, learn to blog for SEO. You can get a massive amount of traffic that way, and it can be very profitable for you. But if you don't like to write, well, don't do that. It's not going to be effective for you. You're never going to be able to make it do what you want it to do. So there's so many different tools now. They're all wildly helpful to the right people with the right skill set.
I love that. I love that. I love that. I love that. Because I guess another way for people to help understand this is if your goal is to make $1 million, let's say you want to build $1 million company and your product is $1,000. $1 million divided by 1,000 is 1,000. So you need 1,000 customers a year. And so you can break that down where you don't need all the customers that are out there. And I think another thing to point out is, I love saying this, I wish I thought of it, but I didn't. And it's that markets are unknown and unknowable. And so what I mean is that you can get indicators. If I ask how many people are shopping for a car today, you can look up search results and stuff like keyword research and stuff. You can get indicators, but ultimately you'll never know the true number, and it fluctuates constantly. So it's unknown and unknowable, but everybody can recognize excellence. And so if you just focus on solving that problem for people, those people, in the most excellent manner, that in itself, whether there's new technology like AI, whether something else comes out, if you're focused on excellence, should be your guiding light. And I really like that the mission, like something that's come up again and again in this call, at least when you talk, is the emphasis on the people. I love that. Like the problem I solve, who I solve it for, giving great customer service, and being for someone, about someone, having a tribe. I think that's incredibly powerful. I think it's
Why
incredibly.
people make business decisions for personal reasons, whether we like to believe that or not. There's no human on this planet that is closing their eyes and their ears and saying, what are the facts? Okay, just pick based on the facts. Nobody does that. The people that they're talking to can affect their decision. You can have 3 web developers all offering you the exact same thing. You're going to choose the one you like the best.
Mhm.
That's how it works. Of course, the people matter. The people are the basis of everything that we do.
I love that. I love that. I love that so much. So now, do you ever feel on your personal journey, were there any specific skills that you really had to learn and master? I think I asked this before, but I don't know. I just feel like I want to ask it again in terms of what skills did you, for yourself personally, in your journey, like when you first launched, maybe you had to learn this, and then you figured out, I had to learn how to get my first client. And then after I got my first client, I'd figure out how to deliver consistently. I don't want to tell you what the answer should be, but I just want to give you an example of thinking about your own personal journey that's got you to where you are now. What did that skill arc look like, if that makes sense?
I think for me personally, the biggest skill arc was more in the time chunking side of things, because it's really easy to want to jump from one task to another task, and you lose a lot of time and effort and efficacy by doing things like that. Answer an email, do a task, and you're all over the map. For me, the biggest thing was time management, time chunking, figuring out how I can put all the things together in like piles so I can do them faster, more effectively, and with the most success. I find that I am better answering emails when I answer all of my emails together rather than doing one email and then going and doing a task and then doing some logos. It just, you bounce all over the place and you lose a lot of time and a lot of efficiency, which
Mm.
for me was a big deal, especially because I have ADHD, and then time can disappear when you have ADHD, let me tell you. So figuring out how to batch those tasks, how to better manage my time, that was my greatest learning curve, and sometimes still is.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. You're talking about focus. And in time management, one of the other things that I can speak to this, if you don't mind, it's not only time management, it's energy management, right? There's just
Yes.
time of days where no matter what you scheduled, like I'm useless at 2 in the afternoon for any sort of thought work. I try like coffee, whatever. I just 2 p.m. I can do calls like this right now at this time. It's after 7 a.m. But 2 p.m. I just need to just do calls, check what someone else on my team's been doing, look at stats. But I can't, you want me to create something, produce something, like I'm useless for that. And so I think time management is also energy management. And this is actually something
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about this because this is also based on our research. And I think it's really important, helping people prevent burnout, but not only energy
Yeah.
management, but that's where health and fitness really come into play, and sleep. And what I mean by that is truck drivers legally have to get a certain amount of rest per however many hours they're on the road. And it's because the research proves that if they're driving with inadequate rest, it's equivalent to driving drunk. Now,
Essentially, yes.
and if you have a business owner, and this was me for 3 years, I got 4 hours of sleep a night for 3 years. And I don't know how I did that now, because now I get good sleep. And if I don't get my sleep, I am like brain dead all day. And if you're a business owner, it's like stacking day of drunken decision making on top of day of drunken decision making on top of day of drunken. And if you did that for 365 days in a row, you're not going to be getting optimal results, and the compound effect will work against you. So I think that's an important one. The other thing I want to mention about this is that if you could run 1 kilometer right now, right? And at the end of it, you're like, like I need to take a nap. That is your energy gas tank for the day. But now if I can snap my fingers and now you can run 10 kilometers and at the end you're tired, but you're not winded, you've 10x your energy output for the day. So when we talk about time management and energy management, that means you have way more energy. And it's not just running. You need strength training, running, and you need strength and cardio. And I'm not going to get into that there, but just for people to consider that diet plays into it. You eat a big meal
Yeah.
before you have important thinking work to do, all your blood's going to leave your brain, go to your stomach. So it's really,
Yep.
I feel business is just such a great teacher. Like most people,
Yeah, it is.
they have to juggle their own most people have a hard time juggling their own finances, but when you have a business, you have to juggle your business's finances, your own finances, sometimes your clients' finances, your staff when they hit you up for an advance. So I just think it's a great educator in that respect.
Absolutely.
So time chunking. Do you have any tips and tools on how you manage your time effectively?
The biggest thing for me is grouping my tasks. That's me. My writing tasks versus my art tasks versus my really thinky tasks. I like to group everything. The more I can group something, the better, because then I can focus in that one section of brain at a time. I can use both sides of my brain, but I can't use them both at once. So
Right.
I prefer
Ah.
to group as many things together as possible that are like each other and do those together, trying to reduce the amount that I bounce all over like an Energizer bunny.
And when you say like ADD, do you have any strategies that you use aside from chunking things to help keep you focused on the task at hand, like to avoid distractions?
Distractions, there's browser tools that will literally eliminate most of your distractions. That I am a huge proponent of lists. I love lists. I have different lists for different times of the day for different types of tasks so that I'm doing the right things in the right order.
Ooh,
Like
checklist.
if I don't drastically regulate myself, I will bounce off the walls all day, every day. So try any and all tools available to you. You're going to find the ones that work best for you, and everybody's a little bit different. But for me, lists are a really big part of it. Managing my time in sections that are of like tasks, that's a big part of it. And some days just being a little patient with myself too.
Yeah, I think those are great tips. I think lists and checklists are a powerful tool. You mentioned that finding some sort of whatever it is, whether it's your phone, and being honest with yourself. Like you said, not just being
Yep.
patient, but also being honest with yourself and allowing yourself and accepting who you are, but also being willing to work on yourself and acknowledge things. What you said is something I found really profound. And I know for you, you just said it, but you accept, first, some people like beware labels because then you feel you have a condition, but some things everybody has a shadow. No one, right?
Yep.
So as far as I know, only Jesus was perfect. And I don't even know about that. But that's as far as I've been told, right? So that means all of us have shadows of some sort. So you have to accept and acknowledge your shadow and then come up with strategies to help yourself and love yourself and be patient
Yeah.
with yourself, knowing that. And I think that's a really good tip. And there's
Yeah,
no
you got to
shame in
work
that
with
either.
who you are instead of who you want to be, because you may never be who you want to be, that perfect image of yourself. But if you work with who you are and how you operate now, you're going to find more success.
Yeah, yeah, so well said. Sasha, this has been such a great call. I've got 2, 3 pages of notes here. Is there anything I haven't asked you about that I should have asked you about?
Oh gosh. I think we've covered a good lot of things. We've talked about a whole range of topics. If anybody's going to take anything away from this, the one takeaway, the thing that I talk about the most is to use the things that are right for you. There are so many solutions and so many experts and so many different ways to do things. And if you need to try a few, go for it. But find the thing that inherently feels more like you. It works with your preferences, works with how you like to do things, how you understand things. Because if you can find tools and tricks that are in line with the way that you already think, you're going to find more success.
I love that. I love that. Sasha, if people have loved your message, if they want to connect and find out more, is the best place for them to go brandscrubbers.com, or should they go anywhere else?
Absolutely. There is great. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on all the major platforms. Find us anywhere. But of course, visit us online. Definitely. Our website is set up to help people find the answers that they need. We've got a great blog section with a lot of awesome content for entrepreneurs, and we would love to share it with you guys.
That's fantastic. So anyone that wants to find out more info, go check out brandscrubbers.com. That is brandscrubbers.com. Sasha, thank you so much for coming. I know you've got a roster of clients and nonprofits that you're working for and your own family to take care of. So thank you for taking time out of your busy day to help me and my audience with what we're doing.
Of course, it was an absolute pleasure. I hope that I was able to provide adequate value, and I really do appreciate the time you've taken with me today. It's been fantastic.